Let's do 15 seconds. Let's see.
Okay.
And you can't laugh. You can smile,
Okay.
but you can't laugh. First question, are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. How do we know Peter was a rich fisherman? You know the answer?
I have no idea.
By his net income.
Wait, what? Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to laugh. Peter had a net income?
Peter, the fisherman,
Mhm.
by his net income.
Oh, by
How they feel?
his fishing net income. No, that was horrible. That was horrible.
Oh, okay. Who was the greatest comedian in the Bible? I thought it was something. He brought the house down. Okay, let's see what we have here.
These are like dry jokes. If I'm being honest, these
They
are like
are.
the driest of jokes.
I said, what kind of man was Boaz before he married? Ruthless.
Ruthless. That's good. That's good.
Okay, I think I'll just read the answers.
Wait, but I'm not supposed to laugh, right?
You are not, so you're failing so far. You
I'm
are.
horrible. Okay.
Guys, welcome back to Hello Younger Me. This lighting should better lights. The lighting should better lights. Light yourself. Okay, guys, welcome back to Hello Younger Me. It is Chika here again. Again, we are on a new episode of My Icon Journey, and today I'll be talking with Beatrice. She's the co-founder of the SAS, Savvy Afro Successes. They are your go-to for all things international students, specifically your journey of um, finding a school, applying to a school, getting your visa, getting everything you need to be here as a student in the United States, and also they help you throughout your journey of being an international student, job hunting, internships, everything that comes with it, right? If I know I interviewed both co-founders of the SARS earlier, so the video might or might not be up, but we'll look out for that. But I'm excited for her to share her tips on how she has progressed as an international student. She also did research, which is something I have not done. So I'd like to hear her insight on how that was as an international student and what she has become now. Okay, in the States, because she's a great person. All right. So if you're interested about all those things, the first question is, who is Beatrice? And we'd like to know specifically how the experiences in your childhood or growing up led you to come to the United States. So, what are the experiences that led up to that?
Okay. Let's see. Am I talking about myself in third person or in regular?
Whatever you're comfortable with is fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say I am a daughter. I'm a sister. I was born into like a very big family. I have so many siblings. So growing up, I feel like everyone had their thing, right? Some of my sisters were like, my sister before me was like very stubborn. Like, growing up, we'll have house classes where, you have a teacher come like teach us at home after school. Yeah. My sister sometimes would be like, nah, I don't wanna attend it just because she could. But I was like the goody two shoes, if you would. I was like the good daughter, and my thing was school, right? Okay. I'll go to school, I'll pass exams, I'll take prizes. In secondary school, or high school, I was education prefect. I don't know if you guys had that in Nigeria. Yeah, that was my position. Yeah. Wait,
what does the education prefect do?
So in my high school, my boarding high school, the education prefect plans like make sure that students actually like study during prep time.
Oh.
So prep time is like
Yeah.
like the way they had school scheduled was wake up at 5 a.m., do chores in the dorm, go for morning devotion, go to class, have breakfast, go back to class, have break time, then have like 2 more classes, then you have lunch, you have siesta, and then you could come back up for prep, which is like on Monday and Tuesday. But if it's like Wednesday, it could be like sports day, Thursday could be like Labor Day, Friday is like laundry day. And then in the nighttime, after 6 p.m., you like go back to the dorm, get ready, have dinner. And then from 7 to I think 9:30 is prep time. So it's like study time. The education prefect was in charge of making sure students study during study time. So what that meant was I will like create a list, and I had a partner, which was an education prefect girl, education prefect boy. I'll create a list of like senior students that will supervise the junior students during prep time to make sure that they are studying.
Okay.
Yeah.
We call them prep prefects.
Yeah. They call them prep prefects?
Yeah, literally. Because they'd have to leave their classes to come and sit with the junior students. Okay.
Yeah, so as education prefect, we create the list of the prep prefects that will go supervise, and every week we change them up. And then you make sure that those prep prefects actually show up to the classes, make sure that each class is kind of organized during that study time, and there are no classes like rowdy. I'm just making sure that the students study when they're supposed to study. So that was my role. Yeah. And the reason I probably got that role was because I was just studious. Studied, yeah. And so I just felt like being in the top 10, top 5, like that's just kind of where I belong, throughout primary, secondary, and high school. And at home, that's what they knew me to do, to do well in school. That was your thing. Yeah. That was my thing. Did you ever
feel pressure to like always be in that top 10?
Depending on who I'm talking to, right? Through therapy, I feel like I've learned that was my way of that was my thing. And if I didn't do that thing, I almost felt like there's nothing else at home that it's my thing. So to like stand out amongst my siblings, because I'm a middle child, amongst many siblings. Oh, okay. You gotta have one thing, right? And if it's that thing for you, like just keep being good at it. And then I also loved it, right? Okay. So it wasn't just that my parents expected out of me, but I think I also set that expectation for them, and I held myself accountable to that standard. So there was always an expectation that when I finished school, I was going to come abroad. Like growing up, I just knew that. And so but that didn't like make me not do well in school or anything of that nature. Like I wasn't spoiled, and my parents did not like teach us that we have privilege, so we're not going to actually work. Like things were not just like given to you, right? And so for myself, I wanted to do well in school, but I don't think I actually knew what it entailed to be an international student or how to apply by yourself or anything of that nature. And so my sisters that were here actually looked into the schools. Okay. And so when they found schools, that's how I came, right? Okay.
And I know this from privileged knowledge, but I know you went through the community college path, right? Yeah. And so, question for you, because I have had someone on the channel that did good, or 2 people that went through the community college, and from their own experience, they loved it. They loved the fact that it was smaller, didn't pay a lot of money, easier to transition, kind of. So, was it the same experience for you, or would you have preferred? Okay.
No, that was the exact experience for me. Yeah. For any international student out there, that's probably a good starting point. Because when I went to 4-year university, I was like, whoa, like there was another adjustment. So for someone that's leaving your home country, a community college is like the class sizes are smaller. You're going to school with like people of your age range, so people are older, they're returning learners. you can get to know your professors.
Okay. That's a
School is
good thing.
You can get to know your professors, and your professors could get to know.
Yeah.
Like my international student advisor, her name was Michelle. She was very intentional with us, with like the international students. But I also had a one-on-one relationship with her. Like if I had any issues, she knew me by name, like knew classes I was taking.
Nice. So
like we had multiple
personal.
touch points, like every semester. It was very personal because of that. And then on the topic of like fees, it was considerably cheaper, especially for someone that was coming to the United States and there was no scholarship.
Yeah, that was my struggle. And you know, the interesting thing or the unfortunate thing is, if you come to the States during the spring semester, which is from January to May, there are 50, almost 10 less scholarships than if you had come in the fall.
That's how I started.
Comes. You started spring or fall?
Yep, I started at spring of 2012.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I came to the US in December, and I started school in January when it was middle of winter. So there was this entire adjustment of what is this weather like?
Whoa, my gosh. Jesus.
Right. It was a huge adjustment. it was crazy. And at the time, like deadlines for scholarships had passed. I don't even think I knew about scholarships then. I was just like, okay.
Let's just go.
My dad had provided tuition for that first semester. You know, when you come in, you have to take like a few like math and English like prep classes to figure out exactly where you land on the spectrum as far as like how many, like do you go right into calculus, or do you need to take intro to algebra or do you take English 101?
Yeah.
Or for people that are coming from
so many memories.
Right. Or like for people that are coming from countries where like the US doesn't recognize them as English being their first language, they have you like take ESL, which is crazy because to me as a Cameroonian, like English was my first language. It was the only language I knew. I mean, besides French, which is the other official language of Cameroon.
Right.
But then I had to take that English exam to determine if they could bypass the ESL requirement or not. And then took the math exam as well to determine my placement in like math classes. And I was coming in as a pre-engineering major. And so for those that don't know, in the US, as an engineering student, like the math classes that count towards your degree is from like I think calculus 1.
Oh, right. Some other thing. That's a good point.
Yeah. But then before you take calculus 1, there's this whole list of prerequisites. It's like you need to know trig, you need to know algebra. These are things that they have already taught you back home, right? Like, you know, I was taking my GC for advanced level. We had calculus, like we had math and additional math. Like it was intense.
Math, yeah.
They had even taught us differential equations, you know? And differential equations is like the 4th level of course, math courses for engineering students. So when I took that math class, then I got my placement into calculus. And so that kind of prevented me from taking 2 semesters worth of math classes in a community college.
Okay. That's
and saving my dad a whole ton of money.
Yeah. If you're coming to the States, excuse me, it's important for you to have an idea of the courses you need to take. So you know what you don't need to waste your time on. And also ask if you can test out of some courses because you already have the knowledge. So
yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that was my transition. I know I've gone around there, but that's kind of my long and short answer of how I started.
Okay, so you mentioned you came in with excuse me, pre-engineering. The pre-engineering was just for you. I'm just trying to break it down for you. Was just for your community college, or did you continue that in your 4-year bachelor's?
That was just for my community college.
Okay.
So at a community college level, you could get a degree called an Associate of Arts or an Associate of Science, like a 2-year degree, if you would like. But for me, because of how expensive school is, I did not want to take all these other like elective classes that they wanted you to take to get that Associate of Arts degree.
Okay.
I knew that what was most important for me was my 4-year engineering degree. And so all I did during my 2 years in community college was to take the most important courses that would count towards my 4-year degree. And so the way I did that was, what are the classes that I need for, in my case, it was a chemical engineering degree.
Mm-hmm.
There's like math, there's chemistry, there's organic chemistry, there's physics. There are all these courses. Some of them are lower level that for people in the 4-year university, they take during the first 2 years of school. Mm-hmm. And those classes are offered in a community college. And so I focused to take those classes that would count. And then for all US institutions, there are electives that you need to take. Things like Introduction to Art. I think they call it Art Appreciation. There is like anthropology, there's like history, there's like political science. Which as an international student, you're like, why do I have to learn about American history? Like, if I want to do engineering, why do I need to learn about history? But it's required by the school, required by the law, it's required by your degree, and you need to take it.
Yeah.
The cost of those classes at a 4-year university compared to those classes at a community college, now that's like a couple of dollar signs. Yeah. And so the wisdom here is those kinds of classes, I took them at community college so that by the time I'm transferring to a 4-year university, I would just focus on the main classes for my major.
Exactly.
And that's where the community college comes in handy as far as like price.
Yeah. I did that too, and it was helpful because my school at that time, Baylor, so they had an interesting relationship with the community college in the area, MCC. And so because sometimes when you want to transfer your courses from a community college to your 4-year, they may not always be accepted. So the relationship between Baylor and MCC allowed that all the electives, like, so for me, I took English literature and American literature, and it was a very easy transition of, recognizing the courses and being applied to my degree. Some courses, like she said, there's some core courses. There's also core courses you have to take. So, like for engineering, like a lot of your science courses, and those ones you might not be able to transfer them. Depends on your school, right? So, like she said, use wisdom when you want to transfer courses. Make sure they're gonna accept it once you do take those courses. But it's a lot cheaper to take it.
It is a whole lot cheaper.
Oh my goodness.
The other thing I was gonna bring up was scholarships, right?
Okay.
So I came to school in the spring semester. I did not know, I think scholarship deadlines had already passed. But then that allowed me to know what scholarships were available for international students that I could be eligible for. And so I could apply for those scholarships by the next year.
All right.
For some of the scholarships, they will want you to have a 3 or 3.5 GPA before you can be eligible. And so I made sure that in that first semester at community college, my GPA was a 3.5 and above, right? So that by the time I'm applying for those scholarships, I'm eligible and I can actually get them. Now, you can get a scholarship while at the community college to further offset the cost of community college, which is already pretty cheaper. And then the other benefit is you can get a transfer scholarship when you go to your 4-year university. And so that's what I looked into. Because I was transferring to a school in Texas, the law, I think at the time, was if you have a scholarship above $1,000 in Texas, then you start paying in-state tuition.
Oh.
Yeah.
In-state tuition is what you want.
In-state tuition is what you want because it completely offsets a lot of international student fees.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting a transfer scholarship, which I forget how much it was, but it was something along $3,000 per semester. Right? It's about $6,000 for the entire academic year. and it allowed me to pay in-state tuition. So on my in-state tuition, $3,000 every semester was paid by the scholarship, and then the remaining balance is what my family had to come up with. Right. And so that further reduced the cost of my international student undergraduate education by, I don't know, I would say over 60%.
Oh boy. I think I couldn't even do that because my school was a private school. So there was only one tuition. The tuition. Because in-state and out of state only applies, I think, state schools.
So a lot of like public schools.
Yeah. So but it has a nice catch. I didn't know that law was there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the more you know.
Better for you. And side notes, I probably already said it in the intro, but she is a co-founder of the SAS, Savvy Afro Successes, and what she's telling you is what she's doing now. Like all the tips of how she knew how to check, make sure her GPA was high to apply, and looking out for scholarships. Like that's all what they do. They are a new platform that is geared to international students. So I'll leave the links in the video, but you should definitely check them out. Oh, research. No, before research. You did your chemical engineering, graduated from your 4-year college, right?
Yep, Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. What's you guys' mascots?
I think we do Guns Up.
Okay. Is that an animal?
And then it's like, the animal is, I think, is the Red Raider. Yeah.
Cool. I don't know what animal that is. It sounds cool.
Yeah, that's the name of our mascot, the Red Raider.
Red Raiders.
Oh, is it the name of a mascot? Oh, that's how we are called. I think they call Texas Tech people Red Raiders. Like that's how they identify.
Yeah. I guess maybe sometimes your mascot can also be what you refer to, because for us, our mascots they're bears, or called Belo bears. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Okay, so did your bachelor's. Now, after your bachelor's, I know you were doing research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Privileged knowledge.
Yeah.
Was that, I know you explained this in the previous video, but for the audience, how did you determine that you wanted to do research? For some international students, it's go to school, graduate,
find a job,
start working. So what made you pivot to research?
Yeah, so for me, I knew I had two options.
Okay.
Right. When I transferred to my 4-year university, I was thinking of two options: start working right after I graduated, right? So look for internships during school and start working right after, or go to graduate school. And at the time, going to graduate school in my mind was like, I'll work for 2 years and then I'll go to graduate school.
Right.
And so graduate school had always been the plan, because when I was leaving Cameroon, my dad wanted me to be a doctor, medical doctor. And I told him that he had me shadow like a hospital. I realized I didn't want to go down that path of being a medical doctor, but I said I would study to the level of doctorate. Like,
so you promised yourself that, and you promised
yeah. I knew that was in my future. I knew that was a path for me.
Okay.
Right? So now let's cut to when I'm in the 4-year university. So 2 years in community college, I transferred to a 4-year university. So I'm like year 3 of my education. And then my chemical engineering program, I'm applying for internships, but I am realizing that once people know you're an international student, it doesn't matter that you have a 4 GPA.
Do you need sponsorship? That's the question I get so far.
And then I think they even get you just from the lack of confidence that you have in presenting yourself. Like, I feel like there was like a sensor that they would just use to detect you. Because sometimes it's like you introduce yourself and they'll ask you if you need sponsorship. But then you look at your fellow classmates.
Oh my God.
I'm serious. No, I'm serious. You see your fellow classmates who are Africans, but were born here, like they are talking to the recruiters, but they don't ask them the same question. You know? And for them, like, they don't even know what that question is of, do you need sponsorship? So I don't know, like, because on my resume, it doesn't say I'm an international student. It says my GPA, it says the experiences that I have. And then when I show up, I'm showing up as someone who's interested in doing an internship, you know? So it could be just that confidence thing that us
It might
international
also
students are
be
still,
the accent. So I feel like we, no
yeah,
matter how
the
much we
accent too.
try to sound like there's something, a word will give you like when you.
Yeah,
So yeah, it definitely could be that because
yeah,
yeah, once you
it could be
introduce
the
yourself.
accent too.
Mhm.
Yeah, once you introduce yourself, they ask you that. So I had hit so many walls with that,
Okay.
um,
Mhm.
that it was difficult to find an internship in my junior year, right? But
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, what else can you do to add to your resume? Like, okay, if I'm not gonna get an internship, I might as well do something else. Like, school cannot be the only thing that's on my resume because everyone else has gone to school.
Right. Okay.
Okay, maybe just a few of us have a 4.0 GPA, but like they need more than that, especially if you're going to be competing with people that have had the internship, right?
Okay.
And so that's how I learned about research. On my campus, they were, there are graduate students that are doing research, and some
Mhm.
of them like we need undergrads to like help them with different things. It could be making
Very small
samples, it could
task.
be
Mhm.
very small mini tasks. And so my first research opportunity was like I was volunteering, I don't know how many hours a week. It was with a mechanical engineering student
Volunteering.
actually. Volunteering. Like
Wow.
the mechanical engineering student, and I was helping with like lab culture. To today, I don't really know what it is. Ad. I had seen an ad on,
Oh my gosh.
these student poster boards, and they said, research assistants needed or something of that nature.
Mhm.
And this was a mechanical engineering PhD student that needed, he was doing some kind of biological research, and he needed someone to, I forget exactly what I was doing. It's like make samples and put it in an oven and then take it out and then develop protocols for it. Something of that along that nature.
Grunt
It was
work.
very simple.
Mhm.
Yeah, very much grunt work.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's how I started. Right? I did it. I probably could not even explain the research I was doing to anyone, but I put that on my resume. That was probably, I transferred to Texas Tech like during the spring semester as well. I
Yeah.
think that was like the next fall semester, right?
Okay.
Because I did not do an internship that summer. That summer, I spent the summer taking classes,
Mhm.
and then during the fall semester, that's when I started that research. But
Okay.
then, what that led me to do was to find a bigger research opportunity for the spring semester,
Opening
right?
doors for you.
Opening doors, right?
Mm.
So I looked at now chemical engineering professors within the department, and I
Okay.
reached out. I forget how many people I emailed. I emailed so many professors asking if they wanted an undergraduate student to do some kind of research in their lab.
Very proactive. My God. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. I had to. I emailed, and some professors did not respond, and then
Of
I'll email
course.
again, and then I'll email again, and then I'll email again. And this professor that I think I had emailed at least maybe like 3 times, he finally responded to me to set up a meeting. And then I showed up to the meeting. All I had seen was what the kind of work he does on his website.
Yeah.
And of course, research can be technically tasking in like the terms that they use to explain what they do.
Exactly.
Um, and at the time, I think I was like a junior level engineering student. Like it was my second semester of junior year. So
Okay.
I kind of had some engineering skills, so like I had taken some engineering coursework, but I don't think I was as technically knowledgeable as I am today for sure. So I went into the meeting. I expressed to him my interest in joining his lab. I asked if there were any like postdocs or grad students that needed help, or like if there were any projects that needed assistance. And so he took me on, to be one of his undergrads. I did not have an independent project, but one of the postdocs who was also like a teaching assistant
Mhm.
was doing research, and there was a part of her project that I guess needed help. And so I came under her and I worked under her. And literally, this is what my research involved. I was mixing solutions of different concentrations and trying to understand phase separation behavior. So I'll mix a solution and take pictures at different time points to see if it has separated into two different phases. Like that's what the research
That's what
was.
it
It
was.
was Yeah, that's what it was. It was very simplified. I forget how many hours per week I needed to give to research. But that experience was very helpful because I had that on my resume. I had that on my graduate school applications. I had that on every other thing that happened after that, right? And that's kind of how I started in research. So that I interviewed for research, I would say, yeah, this was my second semester of junior year, right?
Okay.
And then for the senior year, I continued the search for internships because at the time I had not picked graduate school as a path for me. I was still I was doing research to add to my resume or to just add to my
Just
skill
stand
set,
out.
not
Yeah.
necessarily to go into graduate school right away.
Okay.
I was hoping that with the research experience on there, it could maybe lead to like a job.
Wow. God had different
Yeah.
plans for you. So I know you're going to school. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you so after getting all those experiences and then eventually applying to grad school, getting in, um, what was it like? I guess was it a different experience for international student doing research? Were there some things you had to be mindful of, or was it just like the same experience for everyone? So I haven't
I
actually done
think,
research.
yeah. So research as an international student was the same. It
Okay.
was the same like for like a US citizen, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were no like there was no barrier to entry like there was to getting an internship. Yeah, so that's an easy opportunity that any international student could do.
Okay, possibly.
Now, you could start as a volunteer and then eventually negotiate with a professor. If they have a grant, they could pay you. But that's like an easy pathway to gain some set of skills and some experience
That's
that will go
good.
into your resume. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I wish, because I always thought, for research you had to come with like a certain level of experience and no one wants to because I did the research I did was not really I mean it wasn't below what we were doing. Like all I did was I think they were testing I don't know if it's medicine on rats to see how something about fats, the fats of the rats. So my job
No,
was to
that's
just
still some research.
listen to my job first. Also, I actually was doing there was changing because the rats all lived. They had like a set of racks, and it could fit like a bowl, kind of a Tupperware size bowl, and they were like it was like kind of like hay, and then the rats or the mice actually it was well, both rats and mice would be inside, and they would have like food and water attached to the bowl. So my job was changing the Tupperware. Had to like pick up the mice. I'm a Nigerian girl.
That is grunt work.
I don't used to play with rats. I don't. I had one very horrific experience one day. I don't know how it is in Cameroon, but in Nigeria most houses you have like kind of what Americans call a pantry, right? Where you have like dry foodstuffs. And for us it was in a different part of the house. It was kind of in your room. It was a very weird setup. Anyways,
No, we
so
had like a store in the kitchen. We called it the store.
store, yes. Also, we had so this one wasn't in the store. It was an additional store, kind of.
Sure.
And I don't know, maybe because it was what we considered privileged goods. Like so, it was milk, and milk used to be. I don't know, it used to be kind of expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
Yeah. So my mom had it inside her room. So you have to need access to get those kind of things.
Yeah.
So the door has spoiled, the lock of the door has spoiled. So how we closed the cupboard, let's call it, was with a stool. And so my mom sent me to go get milk. Good. I opened, so first you have to pull out the stool and then the door just open. So I pulled out the stool,
The rat
Beatrice.
jumped on you.
Jesus. To my face.
Oh my god.
God. The way I went backwards, I almost tripped. Blood of Jesus. I said, hey, God.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
so I don't used to mess with rats so much. If we have, because sometimes they have like rats in the house, I walk on the chairs. My feet doesn't touch the ground. Like I don't.
Yeah.
So we happened to pick up mice, and it was amazing because I actually learned how to do it. Like I overcame my fear and touched it. But anyways, that was my glorious experience in research. So research was researching for you and you graduated. Oh my gosh. And then you entered corporate America, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question is where or I don't know if I know some companies you may not be able to share the actual name, but just a general idea of what you're doing now as
Mm-hmm.
your work, and also how it is like navigating corporate America with your internationalism and your accents, and you know you have a different because it's I struggle because most of
Yeah.
the people I work with are not Africans, so it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes to relate to them. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think something that I should say. Let's pull us back a little
yeah.
bit to graduate school because I feel like the amount of growth that I did in graduate school is what really set me up for where I am
Mm,
working at a company. So when I was graduating undergrad, yeah, I had excelled. I ended up doing a little bit of an internship in corporate America, like a co-op is what they
yeah.
called
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. You
And
took a
and
semester
I think
off, and
I
yeah.
got that was based on probably the two research things I did, and like I had also served on a committee I think I served as treasurer for like a
Okay.
student organization.
Nice
So with
leadership.
that, I was able to get that co-op. Yeah, with that leadership experience, I was able to get that co-op. But if I compare how I was there versus how I
Yeah.
was when I started in my current job, they're two separate people. And that's just because of the impact that graduate school had on me.
Hello,
Yeah.
younger me. This is what this channel is about. Like the growth, baby. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. So when I started graduate school, I was still with that undergraduate student mindset where,
Hmm.
grades are important. I'm doing research at the time. So remember, in undergrad, research was kind of means to an end, if you will. So I was doing it because of where it would take me. But in graduate school, you kind of have to love research.
Mm-hmm.
And I
So you
wasn't the
did.
person that really loved research. I did it in undergraduate to do it and have it
Hmm.
in my resume.
Yeah.
And I got to graduate school and I realized that the PhD degree is based on the research that you do and excelling at it. And your grades is just an add-on. You just need to
It's
do
a
a B. You need to do a B or better, and like you literally stop going to classes at some point. By year two, you stop classes and all this research. Yeah,
Whoa. Okay. Didn't know
yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
By year two, you stop classes, and the rest is I ended up being there for 5 years. Some people stay up to 7, and the length of your stay is based on your research, and if you meet your research objectives and all those
You're good.
things, right? Anyway, so I say this to say I had to turn into someone that loved research and that understood that big picture that I talked about,
All right.
the applications of what I was doing, how it was impacting people.
Mm-hmm.
And good enough for me, when I picked an advisor to do research, I always said, because I knew that I did not love research, I was not the kind of person that could do any kind of research project. Nah. If it's not interesting to me, I'm sorry. It's
Sorry
not
about
going.
that. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I needed something that had to do with medicine. I
Okay.
needed something that had like patient care impact,
Okay.
something that I could explain to my parents, or to like my family. Like explain in everyday language. Like I wasn't
Right.
doing something for it to go into a textbook. Because a lot of times when people think of like
So
PhDs,
yeah.
they they think of like this theoretical people that do like theoretical stuff that goes into a textbook. That only ends in publications.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was not me. And so I sought out professors that would allow me to do work that was directly applied to industry, directly applied to real world.
Mm-hmm.
My advisor calls it like translational work. Okay. And so during that time in graduate school, because of just how translational my work was, it was real world projects. You're looking at heart valves. You're trying to understand why blood clots form in people after they have this device. You're trying to understand how you can design better devices to prevent these blood clots from happening, right?
Okay.
And that's me explaining it in everyday language for you to
Okay.
understand it.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big picture idea, but of course the everyday does not.
It's not the same. So.
It's not the same like that. Yeah, the everyday is it's like you're doing plumbing in the lab, you know, you're doing this flow loop that one day your camera is working, one day your camera is not working, you know, like, right. So in grad school, also, just because of how crazy and hectic it is, there's like a little bit of imposter syndrome that you have to deal with, and like confidence building that it's like you go on a journey. You go on a journey where you come in thinking that you know a lot because of how great you did in undergrad.
Yeah, how great you did.
Of how great you did in undergrad and the fact that you've been accepted into this great school.
And then,
yep. And then you slowly realize you don't know anything. And you don't know anything, and you do not know what you do not know. And so then, like, your confidence is completely, like, just short. And yeah, as an international student, like, it's the same for you, the international student, as it is for the few US citizens that are there. And grad school, a lot of us were international students. I would just make that. Yeah. And so your international student's status maybe has little or nothing to do with, you know, how you're feeling. It's just the nature of the environment. Okay. But then you learn how to learn. Yeah, like you really learn how to learn. You learn how to think, you learn how to be analytical, you learn how to write, you learn how to be a problem solver, and then you learn how to communicate the things that you're doing. And so through the papers that you write, through the presentations that you make, through talking to people, like you learn how to reach out to people, like when you don't know the answers to things. So like just how to go about life, you kind of learn that in graduate. How to figure things out. I think that's what my PhD did for me. How to figure things out. So if there's something that comes my way that I don't know how to figure, I'll figure out how to do it.
For problem troubleshooter. Yeah.
Troubleshooter, exactly. And so by the time I was graduating, these are all the skill sets that I ended up learning. And so by the time I show up to corporate America as an international student, but I'm an international student who has learned how to rebuild her confidence because of what I went through in grad school. I've learned how to have my voice because of graduate school. You know, I've learned how to advocate for myself. It's different, right? So when I walk into rooms, which I do today, where I'm the only Black person, I'm the only Black woman, I'm the only person with an accent, I still speak up. I still speak up because of the training that I've had in graduate school, and kind of just the entire journey of how much it has already taken to be where I'm at, you know. And like, if you're in any room, like it was not a mistake that you ended up there. Like, deserve to be there. Like, this life like this, it's not like it's not an error, it's not a mistake, it's not someone felt bad for you so they brought it's nothing like that. If you're in a room where you're the only one, you were qualified. You met the qualifications to be there. And so that's what I have to remind myself every day. Like even with the accent, even with the the little voice in your head that is telling you, I don't know if I'm the diversity hire or if like even if you're never understanding what they're talking about in the meeting, you deserve to be there. You deserve to be there. And so those are the things that I tell myself. And I act like I deserve to be in these spaces and in these spaces.
That's true.
I think initially you asked me the question, so how do I thrive now in these spaces?
How do you navigate it?
How do I navigate it? I'm learning to be more visible. So rather than hiding myself, to actually show myself. Yeah, rather than shrinking down, to actually like stand up straight, to actually be bold, to actually introduce myself, rather than sitting in the back of the room. Or actually earlier this year, there was this thing happened at work where there were doctors that were visiting, because I work for a medical device company.
Okay, there we go.
Because that's what I did. Sorry, I should have said that. Because of my research. Yeah, because of my research, I ended up working for a medical device company. So I work in close collaboration with engineers and doctors. And so making sure that the devices that we make are going to go into patients in the hospital. And so we need a lot of doctors' feedback to make those devices. So I interact with doctors fairly often. I interact with other engineers fairly often. And I was bringing up this story for like earlier this year, we had some doctors visiting our site. And of course, I was one of the few engineers that was in the room with like this senior executives at my company and like my manager's manager, because they wanted me to talk about what I do. And, when we have people visiting, you have to show like what people do and all that.
Yeah, introduce yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those instances where I realized I was the only female in the room, the only Black person in the room, the only Black woman in the room.
Wow.
And I remember walking in and I was like, it's a conference table, but then there are also chairs on the side. I remember sitting on the chairs on the side. I literally had to tell myself, "What's wrong with you? Like, why are you sitting in the corner? Like, join the table, be a part of the conversation, right?" But I say that to say the voice in your head is a lot of times it will always be there, but you just do better at managing that voice in your head. Yeah. And the more I will probably advance.
I'm so serious. I can totally relate to that. That's sorry, go on.
The more you advance in your career, the more you find yourself in spaces where there are no people like you. You are the only international. And no one in there has the experiences that you have. But you are well equipped for those spaces. Like you can still contribute to the conversation. Yeah. Even if you say little, just make sure that the little that you say is your truth. And if an idea comes to mind and you want to contribute to the conversation, like don't shut yourself up. Because guess what? Once you stay quiet, the next person that says will say exactly what you were thinking. And you've robbed yourself of the opportunity. You've robbed yourself of the opportunity to show that you're just as qualified. Yeah. So I feel like I'm preaching.
No, see, please preach, oh. And I also start taking PG for you. Please, Biko, preach. They preach, they go. Like, because we need it. My goodness, do we need it? And,
yeah.
It's tough. Like, some days I'm just like, God, can you please help me fight the voice? I don't have the strength to fight that voice in my head, right? Like, I just want to be. But then the voice comes and you doubt everything. Your voice starts reducing the beatings. You're not sure what you're saying. You don't want to be seen. You just want to come and do work and go home. And man, like beating yourself up every minute. And so it's good to hear people like you, like not just saying now, because thank God, like now you fought that voice. You are fighting that voice, right? But also moments where it's like sometimes you forget, like sitting in the side chair, like sometimes like you forget, but then reminding yourself that I am worthy to be here, right? I can't speak. If you don't speak, you don't get seen, and it's a whole cycle. And then nobody, then there'll be no Black person in that room next time. There'll be no Black people in that room next time. But if you open the doors for others, and I'm sure people just seeing you or just hearing your story, like you are inspiring people to do the same. So that's man, this is what I live for. It's beautiful. I love inspiring stories. So it's yeah, so that's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.